All right, welcome back to another episode of the Perception Evolution Project, Blue is the New White series. I am here with a special guest today, Mr. Eric Pressley, and he's going to talk a little bit about his experiences in the trades and what he's doing, what he's up to, all of that good stuff. Eric, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hey guys, like I said, my name's Eric Pressley. I'm an air compressor technician by trade. I'm doing service, installs. I'm even helping out with sales for a wide variety of installations, such as pharmaceutical, military bases, like the one I was just at. Really anything that needs compressed air I've got my hands in it. Anything from a small body shop up to a huge manufacturing facility, steel mill, anything like that.
That's pretty cool. You don't usually hear about that type of trade. I know I don't talk about that particular trade in my book, but I'll be the first one to say that there's a trade for pretty much anything that you can imagine. And so that's why I was excited to have you on the show, so you could explain a little bit about being an air compressor technician and what that means.
Yeah, most people don't even know we exist, to be honest. And the reason I say that is when you go into a facility and you say to the receptionist, "Hey, I'm here to work on the compressor." She's like, "Oh, the heating and air." No, ma'am. That's not me. But yeah, it is a niche trade. It's a very tight-knit community. I was introduced to it by my dad. He's been doing this for 25 years. And when I got out of tech school with the Air Force, we moved from Virginia down to Atlanta, and they said, "Hey, come join us. The company just went through a huge buyout. We lost some guys. We need filter changers." And I was like, "Cool, sign me up." But I didn't want to just change filters. So I took an interest and kept going with it. And it's paid off. I've been a remote tech for 2 companies now, in the Savannah area, now in the Charleston, South Carolina area. And it's very tight-knit community. It's opened me up to electrical, plumbing, installs. We do a ton of installs. So we're kind of like mechanical contractors on that end. So, yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. Air compressor technician. Yeah, I don't imagine that a lot of people would know what that is. So you said you're a remote technician, which basically means that you work in a place where you don't have a home base or home office. Is that right?
Yes, sir. The company I'm working for right now, they're based out of Greenville, South Carolina, so up in the upstate. If you take South Carolina and divide it in half, I'm on the East Coast. I go from Myrtle Beach all the way to Augusta, Georgia, and that's like a 4-hour span right there.
Oh, whoa.
Oh, yeah. So as you can see, I'm currently in my truck, so I had to run 2 hours down here to this base to check some voltages and some other stuff. So this is my office. This is my home.
Very cool. Yeah, I know a lot. That same thing can be said for a lot of different field technicians. And I know when I was in the field myself, I felt the same way. My truck was my office, and it looked like it, unfortunately.
Yeah. Friday is truck clean out day.
There you go.
Towards the end of the day. Well, it's not Friday yet. So
nice. Very cool. So I imagine you enjoy being an air compressor technician.
I love it. It's weird to say that, and but this is such a small knit community that I feel a sense of pride being one of the only guys who does it. Most people don't know he exists, and that's kind of what drives me a little bit. And it is such a specialty market, so that's really why I like it.
Very cool.
And it's something new every day.
Yeah. And that's a huge thing too. People kind of tend to overlook sometimes is that, especially when you're in such a large service area like you are, I mean, you're not seeing the same thing twice, so there's a little bit less burnout involved in that. But We're going to dive into that in a little bit, but I'm curious right now where you grew up, and I know you were in the service, right? Or are currently in the service.
Yep.
Okay,
So
very cool.
I've moved 9 times, I believe 9. My dad started up new compressor branches for a company in the southeast here. So I was always moving like every 3 to 4 years. Then we ended up in Williamsburg, Virginia for 8. And I really didn't know what I was going to do with my life. So I enlisted with Marine Corps. And then I got a job offer fracking up in West Virginia. Well, that didn't pan out very well. Government regulations, all that good stuff. Well, I had already backed out of the Marines. So I got home and I was like, well, what am I going to do? So I went and joined the Air Force Reserves. And then 2 weeks later, I'm sitting next to my ex-girlfriend on an airplane headed for boot camp.
No kidding.
So when I got back from boot camp and tech school, like I said, my parents were moving to Atlanta. The company had just went through a huge buyout, and they needed filter changers. So we went to Atlanta. And I just honestly got in the service truck the very next day that I got hired on. And it's been crazy ever since. I was going to Seymour Johnson Air Force Base in North Carolina for my reserve duty as a KC-135 crew chief. So just a mechanic on the 135. Well, I transferred to Birmingham, so I didn't have to travel like 8 hours one way just for drill weekend.
Right.
And then I stayed there 2 years, went overseas to Qatar for a short deployment, come back and found my wife, got married, and went to Savannah as a remote tech for another company. Now I'm on a C-130 out of Savannah, Georgia. I'm a crew chief there. And then went to Kuwait on a deployment, quit my job on the way home. And this company called me up, and it's been great ever since. We just bought a house. We're loving it. We had a kid in there as well. Wife's going to school. So yeah, I'm currently still in the Air Force, in the Air National Guard now. It's allowed me to do a lot of cool things. I've got to go to Puerto Rico, Canada, Italy, all over the world. And I got to help out with a lot of hurricane relief efforts down in Puerto Rico when Hurricane Irma and Maria hit. So that was pretty cool to have that sense of I'm helping my country, but I'm also helping my neighbors.
Yeah.
It's one thing to deploy and go overseas to the sandbox, but it's one thing to deploy to another state or another territory of the United States to help them out. You get more of a sense of pride with that, and that's what I enjoy.
Absolutely. Yeah, it sounds like that. So first off, congratulations on all fronts, the house, the wife, the kid, all of that. That's awesome. It sounds like you've been a whole lot of places. And second off, thank you so much for your service. I mentioned in my book too, but I have the utmost respect for anybody in the military. I've had family in the military, friends in the military, and I just, there's not a whole lot else that I can say, but, people like you are the ones that enable, us to be able to even have this podcast and do the things that that we too often take for granted. So thank you for that. All right. So let's dive in a little bit to the core questions that I got for you.
Yeah.
So you said that you're kind of in this trade right now because of your dad. So I imagine that in high school, you kind of knew about the trades, or at least this trade. But can you elaborate a little bit more on how you learned about them in high school and how you ended up getting into them, or coming to the decision from high school to take that next step in your career?
Yeah. To be honest, I didn't think I was going to be an air compressor guy in high school. I really thought I was going to go to the military, go to the Marines, or the Air Force. It didn't matter in my eyes. I really didn't even think about it. It never crossed my mind. I did go to a vocational school for EMT. That was not my forte. That takes a stronger person than I was. Just being honest. Shout out to all the EMTs.
Yeah, for sure.
So it kind of, even though I was born into the industry, I stumbled into it because the company did go through a huge buyout and they lost all their guys. So I was like, well, shoot, I'll do it. So I went over there, and I remember my first service call was with one of my best friends, Steve. I had just met him, and he was like, hey, check power. I was like, how? I had a speaker in my hands, but I didn't know how to check power. I really didn't. So it was a learning step from day one. If it wouldn't have been for Dad, I don't think I'd be an air compressor guy. I probably wouldn't even know it existed. I probably would have went down the route of like auto mechanic or welder, to be honest.
So you think you still would have chosen a trade, just maybe not this one because you probably wouldn't have known about it?
Yeah, I was never the one to wear a suit and tie for a job. I always wanted to get hands dirty. We built, we used to build mud trucks and, go mudding all the time in high school. And I really thought that was going to be my avenue of welding and fabricating and making something out of nothing.
Yeah.
Turns out I still am doing that.
Oh, that's really cool. And there's a lot to be said about working with your hands too, like I say over and over in the book. And, I just finished another book not long ago called Shop Class as Soul Craft. Uh-huh. It kind of takes a different philosophical approach on working with your hands. Quite interesting. But yeah, there's just a certain sense of satisfaction, I think, that certain people get from building something from nothing or making something work when it's broken or, what have you. It's just being able to step back, right, and physically see what you've been responsible for.
Most definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this. I talk a lot about perceptions and things like that. I'm sure you've seen my stuff on LinkedIn. But what was your perception of a tradesman before deciding to pursue the trade yourself?
Well, each trade in my eyes, I viewed them a little different. I never put them all together as one trade. So like you always hear the stereotypical plumber, he's got the plumber crack.
Yeah.
You've that guy, he's going to throw gauges on something and get out as fast as he can. But I never really thought too much into it until I started looking more. And I'm like, those stereotypes need to be thrown out the window because I know a ton of people that went into these trades and you would have thought they were businessmen the way they dressed each and every day.
Yeah.
But a lot of, in high school, they never put a focus on going to a trade. It was military or, college.
Yeah.
Well, to me, I thought about going down the college route when I was going to go do the fracking thing. I was going to study geology. Dude, I didn't know the difference between SAT, ACT, BYOB. I'm not even sure what all they were, to be honest. So there was maybe it was me looking for something of, hey, tell me exactly what do you need? And go, I have a factory trying to call me. That is not good. Technical support. How do I get back there? I think I'm back.
There you are.
There we go. Sorry about that.
It's all right. We didn't lose audio. We only lost video for just a sec.
There you go. So, but I never really dove into the college thing. And even to this day, my wife, she's going to nursing school and all that. And some of these things these colleges want from you, it's like they just want to suck you dry of all your money.
Yeah. Yeah. It certainly seems that way.
It's like, I took all these these classes in high school. Why do I got to go retake all these core classes again?
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't make sense. I just never was with the college thing. It didn't make sense to why I'm going to go spend $100,000 and go make $40,000. It didn't add up in my eyes.
Yeah. which is just amazing, right? Because that information is pretty evident these days. You know, I mean, the writing's all over the wall, right? And it's almost like it's just disregarded to a point where, you know, everyone is so sure that a college education is the only true path to success that, you know, the downfalls are disregarded, and this advice is pushed on students regardless. Which is just I don't know. Yeah, I think it's coming a little bit more to the forefront now, you know, with the, you know, with the student loan crisis at whatever it is, $1.5 trillion and, you know, stuff like that. People are finally starting to talk about it a little bit. So I'm hoping that, you know, we're doing full circle here, and it's going to be thought about a little bit more before, you know, pushing kids who may not want to go to college or may not be, you know, able to go to college or whatever the situation may be, you know, before pushing it on them. Because I know when I was in high school, you know, I didn't go to college. You know, people wanted me to go to college. A lot of people wanted me to go to college, and, you know, everybody said the same thing: just go to college, take the core classes, you'll figure it out. You know, and I just I never got on board with that. I couldn't, you know, because kind of like you know, I mean, I saw, well, look, I know this information that I learned in high school. I'm not saying I'm the smartest person in the world, but I'm also not saying that I want to spend a bunch of money to learn the same exact thing, or even just a little bit more of the same thing, you know? So it's tough. So we talked a little bit about the perceptions of tradespeople, and, you know, the plumber was a good example. What other perceptions do you see surrounding even what you do? I imagine you're mostly business to business in what you do.
Yeah, mostly
Commercial.
It's a manufacturer company to manufacturing company.
Okay.
So I actually know of a lot of people in this trade that they do fit that stereotype, which is kind of disheartening in my eyes. You know, I walked up on another company standing in front of a machine and say he couldn't figure it out, or I was there for another reason. And he's got, you know, this nasty beard with dip stains all in it, and his shirt's out, and that's not me. That's all my guys that I work with. I'm lucky enough that, you know, we're groomed well. We keep high standards on what we look like. I know when I started at the first company I was with, I showed up without a belt one day, and my dad was like, "Hey, there's a Walmart on the way to your job, right?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, what's up?" He's like, "Get you a belt." He said, "I will call the customer and I will find out if you don't have a belt," because that's the way he was taught at that company. And the owner of that company ran it for many years until about 2012, and everybody knew that company. They all had white shirts and blue pants. You might say, wow, that's weird that a mechanic, you know, an air compressor guy would have a white shirt because he's going to get it black by the end of the day. But everybody knew who we were.
Mm-hmm.
He had such high standards. And these other companies, some of them don't.
Right.
And I think a lot of it's a self-pride thing. You know, I mean, yes, I'm dirty today, but I'm that guy who gets out of the truck and grease comes to me. I don't know what it is. But I try to keep a spare change of clothes in case I do have to go to another customer. I want to look presentable and clean, and I'm seeing it all together. Most people think that, one, you've got to be older in this trade, and one, you got to look like a greasy mechanic. Well, I don't fit both of those. I actually got kicked out of a FedEx company in Atlanta for being too young. They didn't think I was over 18. I had to show my ID. Luckily, I skimmed by for a year, so I was not at the time. That's a lot. I mean, that one right there was a stereotype in my eyes. They were like, "Oh, you have to be old and you got to look like a mechanic." No, not us. Sorry. So.
That's really interesting. That's the first time I've ever heard that. But I mean, you're absolutely right. You know, and I think it's important to note too that in any industry, you're going to have those companies that either fall into the stereotype or you know don't do justice to the rest of the industry. And unfortunately, I think that in the skilled trades, whether it be air compressor mechanics or electricians or plumbers or HVAC techs, the perception revolves kind of around those companies. Those companies have become the stereotype, and there's a lot of different reasons why that is. And I'm sure that we could talk all day about the industrial arts as they existed 30 years ago in school, and what kind of kids were pushed towards those classes and who they are today. But in order to keep this moving along, we'll move on to the next one. So this is one of my most favorite questions. What would you say is the most important lesson that the trades have taught you, or that even this trade has taught you?
Humility.
Yeah.
You have to, you can be the best guy today, but tomorrow you're going to find something that's going to blow up in your face. Literally, a contactor might blow up and you don't know why. And you're back to square one where you're like reading diagrams and you're calling tech support. I mean, I had to call tech support today. So if you just have to take a step back and take it step by step. When you're on the way to a job site, don't think about the job too much, because you're going to rabbit hole yourself into thinking that is the problem. You think you figured it out before you've even got there, but really you don't know. You've got to take a step back and don't be afraid to open that manual or call tech support, call another guy. That's why I wear these little headsets, is so I can call these people and say, look, I'm going to bounce this off your head. I've done this, this, and this, but I'm at a point of where I don't know. So you have to reach out. And if, there's a lot of Facebook pages for HVAC, all the trades really. Mm-hmm. And I'm a compressor one, and I don't have a problem taking a picture of a controller, posting it on there going, guys, I don't know this password. I don't know what this fault is. Help me out, send me a manual, and I'll dig in. So really, it's just not getting a big head, staying humble with it. That's one of the main things that has taught me. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd have to agree 100% with that. And humility is such an important personal fundamental too of success. You know what I mean? And that's what I like to preach a lot about, is how the trades can build the fundamentals for future success, whether that's in the trades as a technician, or, management or entrepreneurship, or if you pivot out of the trades and do something else, the skills that you would have learned, and learn to value while doing trade work is it's just so important, like humility, like you said. And I think that would be my answer as well, for what the trades has taught me. Definitely humility. I like to say we are all in the trades Jedi masters of humility, because you have to be. The second that you think you know everything is the second that you get hurt, or somebody else gets hurt, or you screw something up, and to the point of no return.
Most definitely.
Yeah, so that's definitely a good answer. So professionally speaking, what is it that you love most about what you do?
This is going to sound really weird. I love when I'm riding down the road with my wife or family member, and I see a truck, like an 18-wheeler with the company logo on it, and I'm like, I made that happen. I provided the air to make that widget to put on that truck so they could put it in someone's hands and use it.
That's awesome.
That sounds weird, but I really get a joy of that. Or driving by a plant, we all crack that joke about tradesmen, how we point out what we've worked on to our family. Yeah. But I love doing that. Luckily, I live in an industrialized area to where I can do that quite often. My wife will hit me for it. But every time I'm going to ride by that same place, go, hey, I fixed their compressors. I got them up and going. So that's what I really like about it. And it's something new every day. I mean, one day you're installing something, the next day you're troubleshooting. One day you're just walking through a plant with a little sonar detector looking for an ultrasonic, detector looking for air leaks. And it's something new every day. You get to meet new people. I make a joke of saying I don't like people, blah, blah, blah. But really, I do enjoy talking with people, seeing new things, and meeting new people. So.
Yeah, and that's just an inevitability in the trades. I mean, our main purpose is to serve people, in some capacity or another, whether it's building something that they use or fixing something else, whatever it is. And I know exactly what joke you're talking about. What all the jokes you're talking about. I make the same one. The more people I meet, the more I like my dogs. And it's we joke and stuff like that, but you're absolutely right. At the end of the day, the interactions, the relationships, stuff like that is the enjoyable part of it. I mean, like me and you sitting down, completely across the country, having a conversation about this is something, honestly, 5 years ago I never thought that I would be doing. Is talking to like-minded individuals like yourself about what we love most about the trades. I mean, it's remarkable, the type of connections that we can make in this industry, and the sense of satisfaction and pride that can come from that, like driving down the street and pointing out the things that you worked on, and
and the relationships I've built with my customers, not only just people in the trades, but some of these customers, they text me all the time. Hey, how's your baby doing? Or how's your wife doing in school? Do you want to get together and go fishing? Yeah, let's do that. I think this is just Eric talking here. I think that if a tradesman can build a relationship with a customer, even though your bid might come in higher on something, they're probably going to go with you because they have a relationship and they trust you. You may not have solved all their problems, or you might not know every problem they're going to encounter, but you've built a relationship with them and they like you and they trust you. They trust that you're going to figure out their problems. So, I don't get why a lot of people don't like dealing with customers. Even the irate ones, you can still have a relationship with them and have an enjoyable work day.
Absolutely. And, to that point, it's, that's definitely a developed skill, because the first time you get screamed at by a customer, right, you're not really exactly sure how to respond, how to take it, but as you work through it, because it's going to happen. I mean, and it'll happen on both sides in any industry. Whatever it is. But you develop these skills, right? These communication skills, these interpersonal skills that allow you to take that knowledge and extend it to your personal life as well. Like I like to say, it really helps me, in arguments with my wife, because I can explain things a whole lot better now,
Right.
And of course it's all in good fun, but it's true, and I think that's just like humility. It's another skill that you can take with you no matter where you go, how to build these relationships.
Yeah. And another part of that with the relationships is, I think a lot of business owners will understand this, but don't be afraid to fire a customer.
Mm-hmm.
I've went to some places, and even though I'm 25, I still look like a baby, I guess. They told me, I get out of my plant. You're still wet behind the ears. You don't know what you're talking about. Send me an experienced tech. Okay, cool. I will send the experienced tech. And I recently just got to do it a few months ago, and I sent out my dad. And we didn't tell him nothing. Dad trained me from day one, really.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets out there, and the guy is irate about me. Dad does the exact same testing that I do, everything, and comes with the same conclusion of, sir, it's not my machine, it's your plant. And the guy was like, all right, I guess I'll understand. And he goes, oh, by the way, that was my son, and I taught him, and he told me everything that he did. And we came to the same conclusion, but you have a different outcome. And he was like, well, I guess I got to call him and apologize. Like, really?
I guess
Really?
humility goes both ways, huh?
But I didn't get discouraged about it because there's no point in it, really. I mean, it's another customer. He deals with things different, and you just got to keep rocking. You knew that you were right. You proved it, and that's all you can do.
Absolutely. And the proof is in the pudding, and you can walk away with the satisfaction of knowing that in that moment, how you handled that situation probably changed that guy's perception of what it is that you do, which is the ultimate objective in the first place. Now, the next time you go to that location, right, it's going to be different.
I did go out there a few weeks later and was working on something else, and he came up to me and he was like, man, I'm just kind of sorry about that. I'm like, no hard feelings, dude. You handle things different than I do, and it's cool. We're going to move on now. So we moved on.
There you go. No, and that's that happens a lot, I think, in the industry, especially, I mean, I saw it firsthand too when I was 22, I think, when I started, 21 when I started. Same situation kind of, with my dad, and the looks that I got, and let me just get a second opinion. You got to do what you got to do. I get it. I got to earn my stripes. So it is what it is. But I think the more it goes back to the perception too, right? Because this industry is full of baby boomers, Generation X, the majority of the industry is older. Yep. I think it's, I don't remember what the statistic is, but something like 60% or 70% is between the ages of 45 and 65 or something. But yeah, it's amazing, which obviously is the whole reason, I'm doing this and I do what I do every day is to close that gap a little bit. So next question for you. If you could say one thing to the listeners about choosing a career in the trades, what would that be?
Yeah, that's a hard one. But I think a lot of it comes back to, it's going to sound weird, but self-identification of what you want in life. What do you like to do? You might not know what you like to do. So there's no shame in going out and just trying it. Just find something you want to do. I have thought about this before of what if we got a few companies, HVAC, plumbing, air compressor, welding companies, to have like trial runs. And that sounds weird, but you join this program and you get to do every one of those, 1 month at a time, just to see if you like it or not. And it's kind of like a mini trade school. And then if you want to get hired on, you go to them and say, hey, I'm done with the program. I want to weld for a living. But there isn't anything out there right now like that.
It's a really great idea.
If anybody's going to do this, it's going to be trademark Eric Pressley. Y'all call me. But I talked to my grandpa about what would you say to get people in the trades. Now he is a retired electrician, and he said, well, I would tell them to if you enjoy it, try it, or this is the kind of money you'll make. This is what you could do. But I think it's changed a lot, especially with my generation. They're not looking at that. They're looking more of how much time am I going to have off? Mm-hmm. How much am I going to get paid, and how little work do I have to do? Not everybody. Now, I'm not trying to stereotype that at all.
Sure.
It happens, I don't think most people want to turn 60 hours in a week. I don't either, but I do it. So I know I've got to do it, and it's okay. But try something you like. Don't be afraid to ask around. You might have a friend who's a welder who will bring you over to his company and say, look, this is what we get to do every day. We've got a kid right now who's 21 up at the shop training on a vacuum pump right now. Just to see if he likes it before he dives in. And the boss brought him on and said, try it out before I invest all this money and you don't like it. which I think is a very smart move to do,
Mm-hmm.
because everybody who's hired is an investment in some way or another.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like that idea, and I think that that could be a very viable option for the Gen Zs coming up. To at least pique their interest and get them to understand what it's all about. Kind of look past the perceptions a little bit and get into the nitty gritty and
Yeah.
Really just experience it, even if it's for a week or a month or whatever it is. It's just a nice little sample size for them to actually, regard it as a career that they could pursue if they wanted to.
Yeah, most definitely. I've thought about it and all the logistics of it, but we won't get into that. But I really wish there was something we could do for it, and then these would be popping up all over the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people would be able to hire a lot of good people, because let's just throw it out there. The guy walking down the street, he might look rough. You stereotyped him, but he might be a jam up welder. He might be the very best HVAC guy you have ever had in his life. But he doesn't know that. He doesn't know he could do that because he hasn't been given an opportunity, or he didn't think about it. So that's when we could step in and help him out and go, man, I think you could enjoy this. Let's learn it. Let's sample it. If you want to dive in, we'll dive in.
Absolutely. And there's a couple of things I want to touch on with what you just said. So you had mentioned the like 60-hour weeks and a lot of people wanting to do as little work as possible for as much as possible, which is absolutely true for a lot of people. And it's a crying shame because, if anyone is afraid of work, then you can just throw success right out the window, because no matter what it is you're doing, trades or not, if you're not willing to put in the work, if you're not willing to do the 60-hour weeks, the 80-hour weeks, the 100-hour weeks, if that's what it takes, then, there is no hope. I'm sorry. I hate to burst your bubble, but that's just how it is. But the second thing is, I think that we're seeing right now a lot of the companies in the trades, the electrical companies, HVAC companies, kind of play towards this a little bit with the benefits packages and the time off packages and stuff like that are being offered now. Even to remain competitive in my market, I had to everyone here starts with 8 paid days off, and so it's things like that we're seeing these industries adapt, and the ones that aren't adapting are the ones that aren't going to attract that new talent. And then the second part to that is a lot of the 60-hour weeks. And if you think about this, a lot of the 60-hour weeks and the 80-hour weeks are because of the skilled trades gap that we're seeing right now, because when you have a shortage of talent and an abundance of work, that talent is going to be drowning in it, and they've got a lot to do. So, the smaller the skills gap gets and the more technicians are available, the more flexibility we have as employers and, technicians have as employees to work together towards a common solution. If you want to work 30 hours a week, maybe there's going to be a spot for you. If you want to work 80 hours a week, there's going to be a spot for you, so it all starts, I think, with changing this perception, getting people attracted again to this industry, and really showcasing the opportunities and the benefits and just the personal fulfillment that comes from it, which is what we need to do. So last question for you. Personally, how do you define success, and how have the trades helped you, or how are they helping you achieve that?
To me, I never wanted to be rich. I wanted to be wealthy. I wanted to have a boat. I wanted to have a house and a family, and to kind of do whatever we want to do. Well, I know that my wife wanted to go to school, so I applied myself more, went to more schooling so I could get paid a little higher. That way she didn't have to work and she could go to school. I also joined the military to help that goal because they pay for your school, so we can send her to school for free. So my definition of success is no debt and to just be happy happy to be able to do what you want to do when you want to do it. And that's about it. It's not a very complex, in my eyes, my definition of success, but that's what makes me happy, is just relaxing, doing what I want when I want with my family.
Yep.
And the trades have helped that, because financially, I have applied myself for the schools that I've went to and the certifications to where I can do that. I'm going to consider the military, the aviation, as a trade as well, because of the fact of, if something ever happened with the air compressor world, I could fall back on the military or the aviation field. So that's success in my eyes, of just doing what you want to do with your life. And I'm financially able to. So the trades have helped me out a ton with that.
And that's great. And that's the entire point that I think that we're trying to make here, is that everybody has their own definition of success. And, we should all individually be working toward what it is that we deem success is, and so your definition of success is absolutely perfect. That's very, very similar to mine. It's simple, and it's what makes you happy. So the trades, again, have enabled you to do that. And adversely, if you want to be filthy rich, and travel the entire world or whatever, there's a spot in the trades that can enable that too. And that's the point that we need to get across, is that no matter what it is you want to do, no matter what direction you want to go, you can rely on the trades to help you get there.
Yeah. If I wasn't married and in the military and I was in the compressor world, I would step up and go to the centrifugal air compressor market. Well, that's what we call big air. I mean, those are big machines. And literally, there's a guy I know who, he could be in Atlanta one day and get a phone call and say, hey, your tools and parts are on the way to Russia. You're going there for 6 weeks.
Oh, geez.
Okay, we're going to Russia. The trades can take you everywhere throughout the world. I have family members in the compressor world. I've went to Bahrain, Guam, Singapore. I nearly got a chance to go to Venezuela one time, but I didn't have my passports ready. That one got slipped out from underneath me. But you really can go a lot of places, especially with the compressor world over in Europe. Germany being a big place for the compressed air industry. There's a lot of manufacturers that are based there. So it's all over the world. And if you just get on LinkedIn, and if you add one compressor guy, you're starting to add them all, and they're from all over the world. So you really can go anywhere you want with it. And then once you get, a few years of experience, you literally can go to any company any company that you want. And they're going to probably 90% of the chance, they're going to say, here's a written offer, because they're the gap. I mean, there's just not many of us. So I think here in a few years, the pay is definitely going to increase, because there are no compressor schools. Not downplaying the HVAC world, but there's HVAC schools. There's the pipe fitting. They've got classes for those.
Mm-hmm.
There are no schools at the tech college for compressors. We're stealing HVAC guys. I mean, because we work on refrigerated air equipment. I can do the refrigeration side, but I like the compressors a little more. But if something ever happens, I can go work on, I can go work for an HVAC company if need be. And I wouldn't have a problem doing that one bit. So,
that's
just
awesome.
Try.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Just give it a try. It beats the hell out of bagging groceries.
Most definitely.
No offense to anybody who's bagging groceries.
That's right. And honestly, if you just apply yourself and talk to your boss, I call my boss like once a day just to tell him, that somebody cut me off in traffic, or the sky is blue. He knows that I am invested in the company and that I want to talk with them and I want to put my input in there. And I think he values it. He's probably going to listen to this and go, no, I don't value it at all, but whatever. We try to take in everything we can and talk with each other and build a relationship amongst us. I mean, even my Facebook group that I'm a part of, I think we're going to try to get together, a lot of us air compressor guys. It's built a family, really. So some of my best friends, I've never met them in my life, but I talk to them every day.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, that kind of camaraderie, that kind of relationship being built, in this day and age, that's what it's all about, man. And that's what that's what this industry has to offer. I mean, that hits the nail on the head right there. So,
yeah, I mean, I'm on a trip to Orlando to go visit one of my buddies, one of my best friends. Never met him, but we're going to go down and we're going to meet and we're going to hang out. He knows more about me than the neighbor does. Just, that's thanks to technology that's happened.
Absolutely, man. No, that's awesome. So we're gonna wrap it up there. But before we go, is there anything you want to say? Any shout outs you want to give to either your company or Facebook page, whatever you want?
Yeah, man. It is a closed group, but it's Compressor Techs United, Air Compressor Techs United. If you want to get on there, send me a link. Send me a request on LinkedIn or Facebook. Get with me. I can add you to the page. You can talk to anybody and everybody. We're all from different walks of life, different brands of compressors. Get with us. We can help you along this journey or this, getting you into the trades. And we can go from there. I want to see more young guys get in. I just was able to get one of my airmen in. He loves it so far. It's something different. Really, it is. And nobody knows we exist, so give us a try. And my company for allowing me to, do what I do. I&M Industrials out of Greenville, South Carolina. We're a Gardner Denver distributor, but we work on all brands. They allow me to do a lot. They allow me to really make my own schedule and go and do cold calls and sales, whatever I want to do. They allow me to do it. So other than that, that's about it there.
Awesome, man. Well, Eric, thank you so much again for your time. Thank you so much again for your service. And, we'll have to do this again sometime.
Yeah, buddy. All right. I'll talk to you on LinkedIn, buddy.
All right, buddy. Sounds good.
All right. Bye.
Bye.